Hello, and welcome once again to 7 Deadly Sins 2011. Welcome to another video on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you've enjoyed any of my past videos, here we are for another one. This time we're bringing back the Breakout subject matter. We did a video and a couple shorts on this game, specifically the Super Breakout, which is actually, I incorrectly said that was a port of Breakout. It's not. It's an actual sequel to Breakout that was released a couple years later, both on the arcades and later on home consoles. And we're doing Super Breakout again because I missed out on a couple of elements of that game that set it apart from the original Breakout video game. But alongside Super Breakout, we are also going to be looking at the original, which was a 1976 arcade title developed by Atari. And we're going to be just looking at some basic gameplay of the original arcade title, as well as we're going to be looking again into the Atari 2600 version of Super Breakout and how that version compares next to the original video game, as well as the many different game modes that it offers, which was something that I completely ignored in the first video. So I wanted to just kind of put it out there. That's kind of my OCD going off with the Breakout different versions and all that. So yeah, let's get started. I will say that I played Breakout on MAME. I don't know how you spell that. It was difficult coming to grasp with how the controls work, and as you can see, I ran into some big issues with the game. But yeah, basically the gameplay of Breakout, the arcade version, is exactly the same as the gameplay of Super Breakout. You have a little paddle, you have a little ball, and you have to bounce the ball off to break the little blocks at the top of the stage level, whatever you want to call it. If you destroy all the little blocks, you win. It's as simple as that. As you just saw, I lost this first attempt. So now we're going to be looking at another one. This game was a little bit easier to control than Super Breakout, but that is a very specific experience because I controlled this game with my arrow keys on my keyboard, whereas I controlled the paddle on Super Breakout with the joystick and my DualSense. I tried controlling with the joystick on the DualSense, and literally what you just saw was the paddle being completely uncontrollable because I tried controlling it with the DualSense and it did not work, so I clearly had to use the keyboards. But yeah, with the keyboard it is controllable and the game is playable, even if I had to run into a lot of trouble to get it running on my computer. The RetroArch core did not really work very well, so I had to use a set standalone core. But yeah, ultimately the game is playable, and there's really not a whole lot of rocket science to it. It was a game that originated with inspiration on Pong, which was also developed by Atari, as was this. And yeah, it was an arcade hit. So yeah, and probably this is, I don't know how many attempts more that I'm going to do. This is, again, post-recorded. I'm finding it a lot easier to record voiceover after I recorded gameplay. What you're seeing here is me suck at this game, but in my defense, it is not an easy game to play outside of the arcade environment. And I wanted to bring you guys an arcade hit on top of the console games that I've done. I'm also planning on bringing old school PC games. I'm also planning on doing more modern games. I did some Five Nights at Freddy's gameplay a couple weeks ago. I plan on bringing more modern gaming, but everything in due time. As you can see, I'm really bad at Breakout. And yeah, now we're going to move on to Super Breakout. If you've seen here, the gameplay is exactly the same as the original version. It was the Atari 2600 version, but now, as you can see, this is a different version. Well, a different version. It's a different mode of the gameplay. It's actually more or less the same, but I believe it's a different level. Um, this is double mode in Super Breakout. It increases the paddle numbers to 2. There's 2 paddles, and there's also 2 balls. And just like in the main mode of Breakout, the objective is exactly the same. The objective is always the same: break the blocks. But now it's extra difficult. It's certainly a mode for me, and I actually had more fun playing like this than I did with the normal mode, if you can call it like that. It's very challenging, though. Let's make that very clear. Yeah, and again, the mobility of the blocks can reach pretty high levels of speed, which makes it very hard to control and at the same time. Nevertheless, though, it is a fun game to play. And Breakout, the original, has the advantage that it's multiplayer, so if you want to play it with a friend, you could. You could back in the day when machines were still around. Well, I assume that they're not around it. Maybe they still are in some places. But yeah, this is me actually trying to beat the stage. I didn't come that far away. But this is not an easy game. It may seem so, but the way that the ball handles and the way that the paddle controls is not as easy as it looks. There, I lost this 2 simple lives because of the way the console, the control. So what you saw was a abbreviated version of double mode, and this is actually double mode. With I forget the name of this particular mode, but basically you have 1 ball that's free from the beginning, and then you have 2 balls that are trapped in the middle of those blocks, and you have to break all the blocks. And once you break the blocks that surround the balls, all 3 balls are supposed to go around, and you lose a life every time that you lose all 3, or not, or is it just one of them actually? I wouldn't know. I never got that. I never got that far. I did try to beat it, but again, as you'll see, it's easier said than done. Yeah. As you can see, it is not as simple as it looks. Right now, it may seem relatively controlled, but once it starts speeding up, and once that one of those balls start entering the equation, I assume it gets way more difficult. As I've shown already, that this game is nowhere near as easy as it may seem. Yeah, as soon as it hit that point, it got difficult. This is another variation of double mode, or not double mode, but another variation of this particular mode. This is progressive mode, which basically, at first it may say, oh, you just have to break all the blocks, and there's a huge hole in the middle. Actually, this mode actually functions sort of like Tetris in that the layout of all the blocks you need to break is not complete as of yet. Once you reach a certain point, there you go. The full map of blocks is revealed, and you basically have to break everything before too hard. Let me know if you'd like to see more variations of this game. I believe the original Breakout only has that one specific game mode. As a matter of fact, I'm very positive that the original Breakout only has the main game mode as well as multiplayer. This is the big difference between Super Breakout and the original version, is the variety. This is also progressive mode, but differently laid out. not really much to say so far. It's just more of the same. But again, I appreciate the fact that if you were an Atari owner at this point in time, you had all this variety and you weren't just buying the same game, even if buying the same game as the arcade would have been big enough in its own right. And to my knowledge, Super Breakout is also offers this kind of variety in the arcades as well. So if you play, Super Breakout also existed in the arcades, and again, it was a sequel to the original. So you had the possibility to play all these different modes in the arcades, at home, wherever. And yeah, there's really not much more to say. I've already went into some detailed gameplay of the original, not the original, but this version. And finally, we have the 9th game mode, which is also, I believe, is also a variation of progressive mode. And that really concludes our video. So I hope that you had a great time, and I'll see you next time.